the Photography Online podcast, in partnership with Kingjoy Tripods.
Coming up on this month's podcast, we check out the late Pope's one-of-a-kind Leica, which is up for auction, discuss the new time limits being imposed on photographers in Chinese hotspots, and try and figure out why photojournalists at a major UK newspaper are unhappy. We decide if being an award-winning photographer is actually of any merit, and we look at more gear releases, including the photo bag, which doubles up as a table.
And now, please welcome your panellists. A man who never uses filters because his own natural density is more than enough. It's Marcus McAdam.
At least 10 stops.
And a man who gets his name from having to sell all his photos at huge discounts. It's Chris Sale.
Everyone loves a bargain.
And here to keep them both in check, it's Ruth Taylor.
Hey everybody, welcome to our podcast. I am Ruth, your host. In with me this month, Marcus, as ever, with his hair looking slightly tamer this week. Do you know what? Again, glad you can't see him. We were just saying at the beginning of the podcast, he looks like he's dribbled toothpaste all the way down the front. He reckons it's something more manly. You've been outdoors doing something, Marcus.
Yeah, I think you're probably sitting there thinking that I've got some kind of 80s tie-dye fashion going on. But
no, I just thought either dandruff or toothpaste, to be honest.
No, the reality is that after we've finished recording this, I'm going outside to paint my windows, and the podcast didn't warrant a change of outfit.
Well, do you know what? Good to know what kind of effort you put in for the podcast. On the other hand, Chris, as you heard there, is our guest this month. Now, Chris, a disclaimer, as always, for the semi-insulting introduction, which I have nothing to do with. But Chris has put effort in. His hair has been quiffed.
It has been coiffured.
At least coiffured.
It's a bit long.
But you know what? It's going vertical.
It is.
Anyway, welcome to the podcast, everyone. So good to have you with us. As we said, got Chris Sale in. A lot of you will know Chris, landscape photographer based down in Englandshire. He's been on the show before. Not on the podcast, though, Chris, right? It's your first time on the podcast.
It is, yes. Thank you very much for having me. It's good to see you. Or hear you, at least.
Hear us, at least, yes. We thought we'd get some fresh blood in, particularly when it comes to the quiz. Marcus, are you making horrible noises?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I've got headphones on, so I can't actually hear myself. But maybe if I take one ear off, I can hear if I am making horrible noises. But which end was it coming from?
You were just channeling James and banging your keyboard or whatever it was.
Okay, yeah. No, I was going to say about Chris joining the podcast. What you didn't mention there, Ruth, is the only reason he's on is because everybody else is unavailable.
Everybody else being two of the rest of the team. Three, potentially, actually.
You do know how to make a boy feel special, Marcus.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is why we don't have more guests in, because, like you said, there's only a very, very small select amount who are actually willing to be insulted and not take it too much to heart. Anyway, Chris, you're very welcome. Looking forward to discussing some of the news stories, some of the gear items, playing the quiz as well, which is going to be good. Some fresh blood for Marcus to try and up his game against. So we'll come to that in due course. We're going to start off with some news stories. We've got a few in the, I keep wanting to say in the newspapers. It's not so much newspapers these days. In the online websites, whatever. Story number one, Marcus, is quite an exciting one, to me at least. What is this?
Yeah, so this is Pope Francis's Leica MA is going up for auction soon. Now, this is a camera that was made specifically for Pope Francis. We'll come on to how it's unique in a minute. But it's estimated to fetch up to $80,000 at auction. Like I say, it's a Leica MA. That doesn't really mean anything to me because I'm not into Leicas, but it's a 35mm. I'm guessing it's a digital camera, but
it is, yes.
Yeah, okay. But it comes with a 50mm 1.2 Noctilux M lens as well.
Very nice.
Presumably we're going to put a link to this so that people can actually see it because it's quite a visually striking camera.
It's a gorgeous camera, I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth having a look to see what we're talking about here because just the description alone won't do it justice. But both the lens and the body carry the serial number of 5 million. I don't think that's because they made 5 million. I think it's just a super rare number which they assign to kind of collector's items. So that serial number is sought after by collectors, so it's all going to add to the price. It's being sold for charity, so I don't know. Do you know which charity this is, Ruth?
No, it just says to people in need, so I'm guessing maybe they're not chosen that yet.
Yeah, okay. But it's a true one of a kind. So the body's finished in chrome and has a distinct white paint covering on some of the panels and controls, presumably to make it more Pope-like. It has PayPal engraving, so presumably Pope bought this through his PayPal account.
I was going to say, it's not PayPal.
No, but that was my joke. That was my joke, Ruth. It was a play on words.
I realised that as you carried on, yeah.
Okay. It has a Latin engraving on it, which I won't try and attempt the Latin part, but the translation means lowly but chosen. Now,
yes.
I think that's an extended version of your motto, Chris, isn't it? Which is just lowly.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Honestly, this feels a little bit. If I was being cynical, it does feel a little bit like a marketing ploy by Leica.
Yes.
On appointment by God.
Surely not.
So it's a bit bling, and if you were going to use this on the street, you would certainly stand out because, like I say, it's a very striking looking camera, and you're not really used to seeing white cameras. I mean, I know Sony and Canon make white lenses, but this is a much more kind of like a compact kind of point and shoot style camera, and you're not used to seeing white and chrome cameras like that. So you'd certainly stand out from the crowd. Now, Leica have a reputation for issuing such exceptional cameras to distinguished personalities in recognition of their achievements, although I've not received mine yet. So this reputation could be in danger of losing some credibility.
What colour would yours be, Marcus?
I think I'd just go minimalist, because that, I don't like to stand out.
I mean,
from the
white
crowd.
is generally minimalist. The Pope wouldn't stand out using that.
I love the way that you pronounce the H in white. It's great.
White. It's got an H.
Yeah, exactly.
In it.
White. Yeah, but it should be a silent letter. But
it's not the island, mate. It's the colour.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you somehow managed to pronounce the H in white, and I like it. It's a compliment, Ruth. So there are other cameras up for auction on the same day, including something called a Leica MP and then -114, of which there were only 141 ever made, and that one is expected to fetch almost $1 million. Now, bearing in mind that the Pope's camera is a one-off and truly unique and was used by the Pope, why would that be estimated to only fetch $80,000 and another camera, of which there's 141 of, is expected to fetch almost $1 million? That doesn't make sense to me.
No, I reckon it's way undervalued. I reckon the Pope's camera is going to go for a lot more. I mean, I'm curious because the pictures that they're showing, it's in fantastic nick. Now, these are obviously shots that were taken before the Pope got it, I assume. And I don't know what the condition actually is like now. Has he used it? Has it got some scratches on it? I don't know. Are these before or after pictures that we're seeing? Because it looks pristine. And those engravings all over the front, stuff like that. Chris, would you have a blingy camera like this?
Not at all, Ruth.
No. Black, minimalist.
It would turn me off completely.
But I think, Chris, the auction takes place on the 22nd of this month in Vienna at the Hotel Imperial. Now, I've booked you a room without breakfast because that was too expensive, but there is a McDonald's down the road.
Very nice.
But I think if you bought both of these cameras, then you might be able to get a kind of like a meal deal.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know Vienna's a beautiful city. I'm happy to go for it.
I've never been.
You've never been?
I'm sure it is. No, it's one of those. It's one of those kind of iconic cities in the world that I've not been to, and there's not many because I was a travel photographer for 10 years, and I went to over 50 countries, and so most of the iconic kind of places in the world, certainly cities, I've been to, but Vienna is one that has eluded me so far. So I'd love to go.
We were there last summer.
Sorry, I just thought when you were saying that whole thing, you were being sarcastic because I misheard you and I thought you said Venice. I was thinking he's playing this one very dryly. Marcus, who's lived for 6 months in Venice. Vienna, right, okay.
Yeah, I may have said Venice, but I meant Vienna. If I did say Venice, I meant Vienna.
So. Okay, so up for auction. estimated 80 grand. When did you say it's up for auction, Marcus? Because we can come back on this
the
next month.
22nd of November.
Oh, November, right, okay. So for our final
so it's not
podcast
this
of
month,
the
it's
year,
next month. Yeah.
Yeah, we will let you know. It could be
So
someone's
we've given everybody plenty of warning.
Christmas gift ideas, you know, if you think
Christmas
of someone
gift
in your
ideas,
life.
yeah.
Stocking fillers.
Let us know. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyway, that's the Pope's Leica. And there are going to be notes to, or links, I should say, to all of these stories in the show notes. So do feel free to check those out. Story number 2, we've got some disgruntled professionals. Chris, what's the second story all about?
Yeah, so this is a story about an email that was sent by an unnamed photographer to the Guardian news desk requesting that they stop using the term snappers to refer to their photographers. So in the email, they claim that the term is demeaning, devalues our visual journalism, and is demoralising to the photography team, which I say is nonsense. So if anybody who's ever started a YouTube photography channel will have been called a lot worse than that. And I'm sure you can relate to that, Marcus.
No, I can't. I only get compliments, funnily enough.
Well, you must have blocked mine then.
But we've done a previous kind of big question on our podcast. I think it was maybe one of the first couple of shows we did where we discussed what does it mean to be a photographer. So does a photographer just mean that you own a camera? Or does a photographer mean that you actually know how to use it and take photos? Because if somebody who's never taken a photo before goes out and buys a camera and they're seen using it on the street, then someone else will say, oh, look at that photographer over there. But it doesn't mean anything, does it? But this kind of relates to that. For me, I would say that if someone is described as a snapper, what I visualize in my head is probably someone taking a photo on their phone. Or I don't know, on a point and shoot device. Whereas a photographer is probably someone who is taking things a little bit more seriously, possibly using a tripod or, waiting for the light and not just, thinking things through a little bit more than a snapper who is someone who just sort of walks up and holds the phone up, doesn't put it to their eye and just goes click and then moves on. That's the difference to me. But
and I can see that. But I don't think it matters what labels are just labels. I don't know why people get upset about this sort of thing.
These are obviously professional photographers who are, I'm assuming, working within the Guardian newspaper, and they're seeing emails maybe flying back and forth saying maybe get a snapper for this, snapper for that. There was journalists who were taking the mick out of this and basically saying, well, we don't mind being called journos or hacks or anything like that, but snappers, the photographers, are they just having a bad day? Or do you reckon it's something maybe that's been going on for so long and there's maybe more in the mix than that, and they're just thinking, hang on, you just think we just go out and take pictures and there's no skills involved and this is the kind of icing on the cake kind of thing?
Well, I think everyone's written emails that have been taken out of context, or the emails are an awful form of communication. It kind of misses the nuances that you get with just talking to people, and let's hope it was a bit tongue in cheek.
You see, I have a term. So if we rate them from bottom to top. If snappers, it just means, you're kind of somebody who just takes a photo without actually thinking about it. And then the next one up would be a photographer. And that's someone who actually sort of thinks it through. And then I've got one that's even higher, which I think we can use to describe ourselves, Chris.
What's that, Marcus?
Lensman.
How's that? I quite like that. I do,
because
quite like
that sounds like you're almost using a Leica.
But see, the problem is now you've just made it discriminatory. It's got to be lens people. It's like postman.
Yeah, see, now you're going to get cancelled for that.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it sounds good in the first couple of seconds, then you've got a bunch of women going to be going.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Lens person.
Lens person. Yeah, but it just doesn't sound. It doesn't sound quite as kind of refined, does it?
But that is the world that we live in, and photography online, as I understand, is all inclusive.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, we employ Ruth.
Thank goodness.
Anyway, yes, some disgruntled snappers, or lensmen, possibly lens people.
Lens persons.
Yes.
Lens persons. So check out that story if you've got anything to add to that. In the show notes, story number 3, Mark, as we do, it's not a selfie-related story, to James's joy, I'm sure, who's not even here, but we're getting kind of tired of the whole selfie thing. This is almost on the same vein. It's travel-related, it's snapper, shall we say, related. What's the story all about?
Yeah, so in China, they've enforced a 1 minute time limit to take photos at some of its most popular honeypot locations. Now, this has been introduced because what happens is you get these viewpoints at various locations around the country, which attract a lot of people. And what they'll do is they'll stand there with their phones or their selfie sticks and what have you, and they'll occupy a place for what's deemed to be far too long. And they cause huge lines of people waiting to get there. So a lot of these honeypot locations, they've employed time attendants who basically stand there with a clock, and the clock starts when you arrive on location, and when it gets to 1 minute, you're told to basically
clear off.
Move your backside and let somebody else get in, which makes perfect sense because otherwise, apparently this was caused by some people setting up very elaborate shots, whether they be group shots or individual shots. And it obviously takes time. And they may have been there for 20 or 30 minutes trying to set up this shot, trying to get it perfect and, setting up a camera on a tripod and then taking the shot on the timer or on a remote and then having to go back and check it and make sure that no one was blinking and all of this. And meanwhile, you've got 1,000 other people waiting to get in there. So it kind of makes sense. But it just brings us on to the fact that these honeypot locations, they make it impossible to really go and take good photos anymore. I mean, the places that we're talking about in China here, I'm not familiar with them, and I lived in China for 5 years. And one of the locations in the story is a particular place called Black Mountain Eye in Shandong province, and they've made it even tighter. They've gone to 30 seconds.
Wow.
Okay. Now, I'd never heard of this place, and I know China as well as anyone who doesn't live there. So I typed it in. I did a search for it. And absolutely nothing comes up. Isn't that amazing? That this really hot spot in China, which the situation is so bad that so many people want to take a photo of it that they've had to limit it to 30 seconds. And yet there isn't a single photo. I mean, if I typed in the Chinese of it, then maybe it would come up. But no one's actually done the translation. That's assuming that it's been translated right in the first place, of course. But I searched for it because I thought, well, this has got to be an amazing location, right? So I'm keen to see it myself, and I couldn't find it. So feel free to try and find whatever that place is. It's called Black Mountain Eye, and it's in Shandong province. But you can see why this is happening, and I'm not against it because if you're one of the many people in the very long line, then obviously you want to get your turn. And they're just snappers. So, they're not thinking it through properly. They're not setting up the tripod. They're not waiting for the light. But as photographers, it makes it impossible to go and photograph these places now because you cannot physically set up a tripod. You can't stand there and wait for the light. So, yeah, it just basically means that there's fewer places for proper photographers or even lens people.
But as a lens person, though, I mean, it does open up that question, doesn't it? Should we be photographing these amazing iconic places where everybody goes and just reproducing the same shot as everybody else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, so I learned everything that I know about composition almost from photographing the Duke of Portland Boathouse in the Lake District, and many listeners at home will know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think as you improve as a photographer, I think you learn that so much of the joy from photography comes from figuring out for yourself. Finding your own locations, figuring out the composition, working out how the light works. So it's an interesting point to make on whether these iconic locations have the same appeal to lens people such as you and I.
But I mean, there's a few places in the Dolomites that we used to go to on our annual Photography Online Adventures trip, which is why Harry and Nick aren't here today, by the way, because they're out there. And we just don't go to them anymore because it's got to the point where you cannot set up a tripod and take a shot that's any different from anybody else because you're now refined to a specific area from where you can take this. So you can't move too far to the left or too far to the right or go forwards or backwards. So you can't really put your own creative kind of input into the shot. You just end up with something that's very, very similar to everyone else. You can't wait too long for the light to change. And of course, that's an area where the light does change often because even though they don't limit the time that you're standing there, speaking as somebody with morals and values, I feel incredibly kind of aware that I'm causing other people to have to wait to get into the spot. So it just basically means that we just can't work there anymore. So it forces us to go off and find other locations which aren't as popular. But in the long run, that actually pays for itself, because some of the locations that we've been forced to go and find have actually ended up being better than the ones that we've kind of ditched. But yeah, that's from a photographic point of view. But from an enjoyment point of view, obviously, it's far more enjoyable to be somewhere and have the place to yourself and be able to walk around and set up and wait for the light and just enjoy the moment, rather than stand there being kind of elbowed by people with smartphones and selfie sticks and what have you. Basically, snappers. I think we should keep lens people and snappers separate from each other.
Absolutely, we should be kept separate.
You go to certain locations, Marcus. You mentioned Dolomites, but also in Utah, where you say you have to go up there at 2 a.m, set up, and there's 14
so there's
tripod people. I mean, would something like that work, where you say, right, you've got, once the sun comes up, you've each got a minute and a half. That's it. You're off.
No, because the place that you're talking about in Utah there is called Mesa Arch. And it's a very popular location for sunrise. And really, you have to photograph it just as the sun comes up over the horizon, because it basically reflects off the underside of the arch, or the rock below the arch, which you can't see from your viewpoint. And it lights the underside of the arch. So the arch actually glows with the reflected light. And that only lasts for maybe, I don't know, it could be seconds, but if it was a clear day, it would last for a few minutes. But bearing in mind that there's only really room for about 3 tripods to be in the perfect location. So if you're any further left or right, obviously you can't be further back because you're going to get other people in your shot, and you can't be further forward because you're getting everybody else's shot. So you can only go left and right, and then you start compromising the composition, because the view that you see through the arch isn't as good as it is if you need to be in that, if you get into that prime location. So when we used to go there, which we don't anymore, but when we used to go there, we would turn up. So we'd typically have a group of 8 of us, because it was a part of our trip. And we would send 4 people there. We'd basically draw straws in the restaurant the night before. And 4 people would go there, but with everybody's tripods, and set them all up in the perfect location. And they would get there about 2 o'clock in the morning. And it would normally be the people who were interested in doing astrophotography, because while they were waiting for the 4 hours between when they arrived and sunrise, they could at least bide that time by shooting astro. And then what would happen is the rest of the group would arrive 10 minutes before sunrise and have their tripods all set up in the perfect location. And there could be 200 other people there. And you should have seen the look on these other people's faces.
As a man of morals and integrity, which is what you've just declared yourself, is that entirely fair to be doing that?
Well, I mean, it's just like, putting your towel down on a sun lounger.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people don't like that either, do they?
No, they don't. But but we don't go there anymore, because, like I said, sometimes it's a nice atmosphere, and it's a positive atmosphere when you've got lots of photographers and they're all talking to each other, and it can be almost like a party atmosphere there. But other times, and I would imagine this is a majority of the time, there's lots of tension as well, with people, saying, "Oh, you just kicked my tripod. Thanks for ruining my exposure." I was doing a merge, and now I can't complete my shot. And there's been fights. I mean, I've never seen them, but there've been reports of fights going on there, and what have you. So it's just not something that I want to be part of. So again, we go and find other places which are just as good, if not better, and we have the place to ourselves. And that's the whole point. Or it's not the whole point, but I think it's a large part of what we do at Photography Online is we take people away from the honeypot locations and off the beaten track. It doesn't mean to say that we ignore the honeypot locations, because, as you know, Ruth, from doing Venice, for example, people go to Venice and they want to see Piazza San Marco. They want to see the view from Accademia Bridge. And if you denied people that, they would feel robbed, because that's maybe why they've gone there. But we only go there at times of day when they're not too busy. Rialto Bridge being the exception, I suppose. That's always very busy. But we also take people off and get them to see the real side of Venice, which I think is what people will remember most at the end of the trip.
So solutions are either go off the beaten track if you can, try and find something that's just as good, but away from the crowds. Put a timer on it, put a turnstile on the hill like the farmer did in the Dolomites, or enclose the area. I mean, you're being restricted, like you say, either by time or by the location you can stand in, or just going somewhere completely different altogether. But I suppose some of these locations, like the Chinese one you were talking about, the initial story, it's like rooftops, things like that. There's no options. That's the shot people want.
Exactly.
And so timers is pretty much the only solution people can come up with. Whereas if you're somewhere further afield, Utah, for example, you can at least have a few more options. Anyway, there we go. A 60-second rule that exists if you're planning going to the. Can you remember what it's called? Black Mountain.
Well, there's numerous places. So the Black Mountain Eye is 30 seconds. They're very strict there. But there's numerous places across China where they've introduced these kind of like timekeepers, for want of a better word.
And some of them do say they only do it on a busy period. If there's only a few people around, they let you take your time. But it's when there's a line of people waiting to get the shot.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I know from being in China, living there, and also running trips there, that if you get the timing wrong and don't do your planning properly, it can be a nightmare with just too many people. So one of the locations that we go to on our China trip is a place called Zhangjiajie, which was China's original national park, and it's a stunningly beautiful place. But because it's a national park, it's right in the middle of China, so it's, I was going to say easily accessible. I mean, China's a huge country, so it can still mean getting on a plane and going there, but it's accessible to a lot of people. And if you go there on a time when Chinese people are on holiday, and they tend to all have their holidays at the same time, you cannot move, let alone take a photo. And it wouldn't be pleasant to be there at all. So it's more of a case of just planning when you go to such places and making sure that they're not going to be overrun with people. But China's, as we know, is a populous country, and so if you've got lots of people all going to the same place, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, final story we've got in our news section today is also sticking with popular places, but someone who's doing something a little bit differently, which fascinates me, actually. Chris, what is this story all about?
Well, because we've got our finger on the pulse here at Photography Online, we're going back to 2016 when photographer Oliver Curtis released his book, Vault Fast. Now, this is a brilliant idea. Essentially, it's a collection of photographs taking at some of the iconic locations that we've just been talking about all over the world, but essentially looking in the opposite direction. So pointing 180 degrees from the view that you're used to seeing. And we're talking about the Taj Mahal, we're talking about Stonehenge, Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio, even the Mona Lisa. And personally, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's a far more interesting set of photographs than just yet another series of scenes we've all seen a million times. And I think it's brilliant. Now, this is quite an old article, and there are some comments, as you get on the internet, and largely everybody disagrees with me and thinks it's a stupid idea, but I think it's absolutely brilliant. And some of the photographs are brilliant. Oliver is clearly a very, very good photographer with a wonderful eye, and I just think it's a brilliant idea, and I love it.
That's fantastic. I think it's a brilliant idea. I mean, we came up with this. We were researching another story, and we just happened to see this link, which was attached. So yeah, you're right. It's quite old, but projects like this, in my view, they're fascinating. Those are the things I would pick up a book or open a magazine and have a look at, because I always like, you get a pretty building. I'm thinking, what's it look like around the back? I'd love to do a project on the back of interesting places, or upstairs as opposed to the shop fronts. The whole, like you say, the opposite of things. I think it's a fantastic idea. The fact that people disagree. Marcus, what do you reckon to it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a great idea. And, I'm often telling people that when you do go to places that have been photographed 1,000 times before, try and find a way of, just putting your individuality on it. And sometimes that's easier said than done, of course, but this is a great example of how to do that, and because I can't think of a single location where you couldn't turn around 180 degrees and point the camera in the opposite direction. And even if you're standing with a blank wall in front of you, then you're still able to get a shot of, taken from whichever location it is, and say, right, this is. I mean, we'll put a link presumably so that people can see some of the examples here. But there's a great one in Tiananmen Square, going back to China, where he's obviously not turned through 180 degrees; he's kind of turned through 90 degrees. But it's just a crowd of people all pointing their phones off to the side, so we can't actually see what they're looking at, but there's clearly something going on there, the fact that everybody wants to take a photo there, and it's just looking sideways. But I just think there's a much more interesting story here than, like Chris said, just looking at another view of the Taj Mahal or the Mona Lisa. I mean, we don't need to even. You can just visualize it in your head. You don't even need to see the photo, do you?
No, not at all. And I think that I've always said that the most interesting photographers are the ones that have got something to say. And I think that Oliver's. He has something to say about the way that photography is going. And bearing in mind this was nearly 10 years ago, it's only got worse. And we're only, and you guys were talking about it last month with the influence and the saturation that we have now on social media of these amazing places, admittedly, but it's becoming to the point now where the fantastic is becoming mundane. And we're just seeing them all the time, and they're losing a lot of their appeal.
So there's a fantastic one of the White House there. So that's the other great thing. These photos without the captions would be completely meaningless because you wouldn't know where they were taken. But there's one that just says White House, Washington, and it's just a picture of someone asleep on the grass. I mean, it's just.
Well, the Stonehenge one is fabulous because it's just a sort of plot field that someone's driven across, and there's sort of a few tracks and a gate. It could be almost anywhere in the UK.
Yeah, with the A30 running down the side
exactly,
of it.
yeah.
What I found really interesting about these, I was looking at them again this morning, and I hadn't seen them before. I felt this real sense of claustrophobia when I was looking at them. You know the way sometimes you crop a photo in too tight and it can't breathe? Maybe you've got the bird on the wrong side of the frame. I had this sense of I need to see what they're looking at, and it was unexpected. I was kind of thinking hopefully the next photo will show me what they're actually staring, and it didn't. So it was like this real kind of constricting sense, but fascinating project. And I think people, I don't know who disagrees with them, but they're wrong. That's brilliant. But anyway, you might have a different opinion. Again, in the show notes, links to everything we've been talking about. Do feel free to leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Anyway, we're going to leave the news stories behind and we are going to move on. Very excited for this. Very excited for Chris to be involved in this. Let's move on to the quiz.
The Photography Online Podcast Quiz.
Yeah, welcome back to our pop quiz. It's the Photography Online podcast quiz where I ask our two panellists 5 photography related questions, and you guys can of course play along as well wherever you are. The answers will be revealed at the end. There will be 5 rounds. Each one is worth a point for the correct or closest answer. In the event of a tie, you both receive the point. I just realised I have not done up a piece of paper, so let me just do this while I'm at it. Chris, Marcus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, I've got a new strategy, Ruth.
Oh, you've got okay. Any strategy at this stage can only be beneficial, Marcus. So yes, are you going to explain what it is, or let us know afterwards?
Once you've asked, I will now. Going back, I've realised that whenever I've been overconfident, then I've always got the answer wrong. I mean, fantastically wrong. Okay,
yeah.
But last month when I was playing against James, I got the answer to one of the questions, which was Machu Picchu, and I was convinced I'd got it wrong. And I said, look, I know I've got this wrong, but I've got Machu Picchu. And you said I was right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to assume that I've got everything wrong. And if the record continues to be as it has been in the past, I'm going to get everything right.
Okay.
But I can't say that because now I'm too confident. So I'm going to get everything wrong.
I've never known you be anything other than extremely confident.
Yeah. So I'm going to.
It's not so much your confidence as your eviscerating of other people's answers. Just being so convinced they're wrong and how hilarious that is, and then you being wrong. So confidence itself isn't bad. It's just you need to go easy on your opponent. Okay.
I'm going to go the other way now, and I'm just going to be super unconfident.
Complete humility. That's not humility, right? Okay. Anyway, it's a technique. So he's got a technique. This is good. There was somebody else recommending you apply some sort of maths to your technique, but we'll go for this first, and then maybe next time we'll see how it goes. So, all right. Well, here we go. Let's go with our first question.
Round 1. Multiple choice.
Okay, so Chris, as it's your first time, I'm going to ask a question which is fairly difficult. So to help you out, there are 4 possible answers. All I need you to do, in fact, is tell me which one you think is correct. I would recommend, Chris, not that I don't trust you, but we've just established it's maybe a good idea. Write down your answer.
Okay.
Just in case someone decides to change based on the other person. Not that I'm, morality and integrity, as Marcus keeps saying, does exist. Okay, here is the question, and there are 4 choices. In 1888, Kodak launched its first camera with a slogan. Which one of these is the real one? A, you press the button, we do the rest. B, portable photography for every home. C, capture life one frame at a time. Or D, see the world through your lens.
Oh, I mean, that could be anything.
Yeah, I mean,
really,
it's just toss a coin.
Okay, right.
I've forgotten what they are.
I've got my answer.
Do you want me to repeat them?
Yes, please.
Okay. A, you press the button, we do the rest. B, portable photography for every home. C, capture life one frame at a time. Or D, see the world through your lens.
I have an answer.
Excellent. That's what we like. Marcus?
Yeah, I've changed my answer. I wrote down a letter and now I've scribbled it out. On second hearing, I've scribbled it out and I've gone with another one.
Okay, just giving us your process there. All right, okay, cool. That's the first one. Let's move on.
Round 2. Name the year.
All right, well, in this round, the answer to the question will be a year. The round goes to whoever gets the closest answer, but if either of you gives me the exact year, you will get a bonus point. This is the question. In what year was the first picture of Earth taken that included the moon's surface?
Well, I know when we've got a point in time where it won't be before.
Well, see, there's usually context and logic can be applied to get you somewhere in the region.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marcus, did you ask something?
So hang on. So the first picture of Earth,
Yes.
but includes the moon's surface.
Yes.
Okay. Rather than the first picture of the moon, which includes the Earth's surface.
Ooh.
Yes, so it's not taken from Earth. I'll give you a clue. It's
yes,
not taken
okay,
from
right,
Earth.
okay. Just clarifying.
I know, I knew, and I actually had to reword that question earlier on, just thinking, just in case Marcus can take it the wrong way.
Okay, so right, I've got my answer.
Yeah.
I have an answer.
See, Chris has got proper humility. Marcus is just he's trying to manufacture it because he's not used to it.
Well, I can't really lose because Marcus has been in this game a lot longer than me, so he knows a lot more. So if I come last, then so be it. And if I beat him, well, he'll never live it down.
All right, moving on.
Round 3. Artificial intelligence.
All right, this is everybody's least favourite round. I asked ChatGPT to describe a photographic object, person or practice without mentioning the name of the subject. All I need you to do is tell me what I asked it to talk about. So here is the question.
I was inspired by sailors' instruments and balance with ease. I hold great weight, yet seem to make it vanish. I pivot in silence, never tiring, always ready to follow a fleeting subject.
Okay.
Oh, I know what it is, but I can't think what the damn things are called. Oh, I'll write an answer.
Okay, that's all. That's all we can ask for, Chris. Marcus.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got my answer, but I am going to, if I'm right, which I'm probably not. I'm almost certainly wrong.
This is such a weird thing to be hearing out of your mouth, Marcus. Keep talking.
But if I am right, I'm going to pick fault with something that was said there because I think I disagree with it. But anyway, I'm probably wrong.
Pick fault, Marcus. Surely not.
Yes,
you can pick a fight with a computer. It's completely up to you. All right, that was our third round. Let's move on.
Round 4. Take a wild guess.
All right, well, as the name suggests, this round requires an answer which could be almost anything, so you're unlikely to get it exact. So you will need to take a wild guess. As with round 2, Chris is looking horrified already. The point will go to whoever gets closest to the answer. Although it's unlikely, if one of you does get the exact answer, there are 2 bonus points. Now, this isn't as horrendous as it's been in the past, so I'll just caveat that. Here's the question. The largest analogue camera ever built was in 1900 to photograph a new train. How wide was the glass plate? And that's in feet, please.
Right, okay.
Chris's face is perfect.
Yeah,
Just blank.
I've seen pictures of big cameras, but whether it's that one.
Well, even if it's not, at least you know it's going to be a minimum of that size.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm gonna be too far under this. Shall I do what Marcus normally does and go too high?
Well, I don't know. See, you haven't had time to perfect a technique yet.
No, I haven't. I'm going to write down an answer which makes sense in my head.
Okay. That's all we can ask for. It is a wild guess question. All right, moving on to our final round.
Round 5. Where in the world?
All right, well, this final round is as much a geography question as it is a photography one. The location is typically a well-known hotspot for photography. Here it is. This
For snappers.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, for photography. No, okay. For lens. Stop confusing me. The question.
lens persons.
Lens persons. This city is known as the Rose City. Once home to gardens and pools, it was a popular stopping off point on a busy trade route. No Westerner had seen it for nearly 1,000 years until a Swiss man, pretending he wanted to sacrifice his goat there, was led to the city. Where
So it's a city that we're looking for.
It is.
Right.
Or it was.
Yeah.
I'd say Chris has got some of the
Okay.
best reactions we've had to date. Maybe it's his thinking pulse.
Okay, I've got an answer which is probably wrong, but it's a good guess. It's got logic.
Okay, that's all we can ask for.
I'm going to put an answer down, but I don't think it's not going to be right.
I'm not sure I like this whole both of you being unconfident and it's
I might have got none of them right.
Well, to date, I don't know if we've had any zeros. I'd have to go back and actually check. I don't think we have. There are ones where if you get the closest to, you get the points.
Okay,
so you might set a new record, Chris, if you get zero. But we'll see. We'll see. So have you got answers to 5 questions there, guys? Yes?
I do.
Yep.
Okay, right. Well, let's go back and have a wee look at them. If I can just find them. Number 1. Here we go. Round 1 was multiple choice. Kodak's first slogan. Which one did you think it was? Show me your answers, please. Just show them A, B, C, or D, if that's what you've got. Marcus has got A.
And I've got B.
Chris has got B. Right, I should probably check what it actually is. Congratulations to Marcus. A. Look at that.
No, you see, look. I said I wrote down. Look,
Yeah,
you see,
yeah.
I originally wrote down D, and then when Chris said, "Can we have them again?" which was your mistake, Chris. I changed it to A because the next time she went through them, I was thinking, I know Ruth reasonably well, and which one would she not have made up? And that was the one I thought she wouldn't. That's something that Ruth wouldn't come up with. So that's why I went with it.
So what was the right answer?
The correct answer was "You press the button, we do the rest." Often credited with launching the era of amateur photography, because family snaps, travel photos, etc. became commonplace. There was no need for technical expertise anymore, because Kodak users could now take up to 100 photos, send back the camera, and receive the developed prints and the reloaded camera. So ushered in a whole new era of snappering, shall we say, and no longer just lens people using those. So congratulations, Marcus. Don't know if he's ever got the first one right or not. He's looking marginally happy.
Yeah, no, I've definitely got the rest of them wrong.
Right,
So it's going to be 1-0 then.
He's just saying this to try and make sure his technique's working. All right, round 2. The question was the first picture of Earth taken that included the moon's surface. I was looking for a year, and the closest to gets this one. Chris, what did you have?
I put 1968.
1968 for Chris. Marcus.
Just so that you don't.
Right, this is going to be confusing because I've said the closest to. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you you're both wrong. And would one of you like to change your answer? Or would both of you like to change your answer?
Well, I'll go high.
Right.
I'll 69 then. I'll go towards the 70s.
Yeah, but does that mean that I can't go 1969 now?
I think so.
No.
Well, because then we're not getting anywhere.
We should have thought
We're
this round out a little bit better.
I'm happy to take a tie on that. I'll give it a point each.
I would have. Yeah, I would have thought it would
Well,
have been Apollo 8.
What we'll do then, if you're both right, you'll both get the point. If you're both wrong, neither of you will.
Okay, well, I'm going 19. Apollo 8. I'm going to go 67 then.
Correct answers. Both happy with your answers? Yes.
Well, no, not now. Not now. You telegraphed it. Balls.
Okay. Marcus is correct.
Was it 67 then? Bang on.
It was not. It was 66.
Okay. Right.
But he was the closest to. So you
Was
got
it
that
Apollo
right.
8?
Yeah.
It was not Apollo 8. It was not Apollo anything, in fact. It was the lunar orbiter. which sent back
so
the
it
first
wasn't-
photo. It predated Apollo's Earthrise, which most people have seen, that colour photograph Earthrise, by over 2 years. It looks kind of similar, but it's a grainy black and white picture, basically. 1966, Lunar Orbiter 1 sent that back. The camera, which was made by Kodak, featured an automated system that developed the exposed film, scanned the images, and transmitted them back to Earth, and it orbited the moon for 76 days until it deliberately crashed into the surface. So there's a lot of cameras up there on the moon, you know?
So it was a digital camera then?
Well, I don't know. It printed them and scanned them.
If it scanned it, it's.
Or maybe something else in
maybe-
the orbiter scanned them. It obviously wasn't the camera itself that did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so congrats. This is freaking me out a little bit. Okay, Marcus is 2 for 2, which is a little bit worrying. Yeah, sorry about this, Chris.
Never mind.
Artificial intelligence. What was I asking ChatGPT to talk about? Do we want to have this written down, or both of you can tell you that you're not going to change
I've got
your
it written
answers?
down.
Okay, that's fine. You can prove it then. So, okay, Marcus, what did you have?
I've got a gimbal.
I've got gimbal.
Okay. It was a gimbal. Congratulations.
Okay, now see, I said I'm going to pick a fight with this.
Fault with it then.
So it said I never tire, but a gimbal will tire because the batteries will run out.
No. Okay, well, in that case, Chris, what did you have?
Gimbal.
Okay, it was a gimbal head.
Okay.
As in the thing without the batteries.
Okay.
The balance thing.
So it's,
The balancing thing, yeah. So
Okay.
you can
That's what I meant.
De-pick your fault, yeah. Yeah, right, okay. Close. Okay, question for round 4 was all about the largest analog camera ever built. I wanted the answer to how wide the glass plate inside the camera was, please. Chris, you can go first.
I said.
This is take a wild guess, bear in
Yeah,
mind, so there's no shame.
So I said 4 feet for some reason, and I don't know why, because that's clearly way too small.
yeah, because there are cameras around that you can buy today, which are that size.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a camera. My biggest camera is almost 2 feet wide. So, but anyway, I've got 10 feet.
Okay.
So, which I know is definitely wrong. I've definitely lost this round, haven't I, Ruth?
Well, based on the closest answer, Marcus sadly is correct.
Well done, Marcus.
It was 8 feet by 4.5. It was made from natural cherry wood, this camera. Bespoke Carl Zeiss lenses, also the largest ever made. The camera alone weighed 900 pounds, and with the plate holder it reached 1,400. The bellows was big enough to hold 6 men, and the whole camera took a total of 15 workers to operate. And you can Google that quite easily and get pictures. It's quite fascinating. So I'm not feeling good about this whole Marcus taking the lead on here. But anyway, it is what it is. We've got a final question. So
Well,
Chris,
I've definitely got this one wrong.
I've definitely got this wrong.
this is going to get frustrating.
Definitely got this wrong.
Right, both of you, just stop it. Where in the world? Where was I describing then? Marcus, you can go first.
Well, okay, because you said it's the first time a Westerner had seen it, then obviously it's not in the West. So we're going east. And guy from Switzerland, I'm just thinking, right, okay, a trade route. If you travel from Switzerland and you go east, which he has to have gone, then where's the first place that you're going to come to, which is kind of, I don't know, photogenic? And I've got Istanbul.
It's exactly what I put.
Oh, come on.
It's exactly what I put. I put Constantinople first because that's what it was called back then. But yeah, it's Istanbul. It's on a major trade route. That's kind of what I went for. But I don't think it's far enough east.
Yeah, you're both wrong.
Yeah, there you go.
Congratulations
We
on
said
being on the
that.
same plane. It was Petra in Jordan. And I didn't say it was on the Swissman's trade route. I said it was on a trade route. It was rediscovered by Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, a Swiss dude, in 1812, who was in Syria to improve his Arabic. Now, a previous European had been murdered while looking for the city, so Johann took his time. He impersonated a sheikh for 3 years until he could manage to wangle his way into this lost city, to the Westerners at least. So there we go. Both wrong. However, it does mean we need some music. We need like a trumpet. Do-do-do-do. Marcus, for the first time in
my
7
tactic works.
podcasts, has won a podcast. And Chris, there's zero shame at all. You got 1 correct there and came pretty
hang on a
close to
minute.
another one.
When you said there's zero shame, right? Chris was up against the biggest loser, okay, and he still lost.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
But the takeaway from this is that Marcus has realised that humility is actually beneficial.
Yes.
Even if it's only for his own gain in order to win
normal
something.
service will be resumed next month, no doubt.
Yes, it will. Anyway, there we go. Congratulations to Marcus. I've never seen him look happy at the end of a quiz before, so it's not a bad thing.
To be fair, we wrote the same answer. 3 of them, we wrote exactly the same thing, which is worrying for me.
Yeah,
because that means I'm on
surprised.
Marcus's wavelength.
Yeah, so maybe you need to employ another tactic as well when it comes to... Maybe if we get you back in, Chris. Anyway, hopefully you guys had a good time playing along, and let us know how you got on as well. If you beat Marcus, or if you beat Chris, or if you came horribly last with 0 points. Like I said, we've not had nil point before, so at least we're not doing too bad. But do let us know. Get in touch, podcast at mc2photography.com, or leave a comment on whatever platform you're listening in. We would love to hear from you. We'll be back next month with a couple of fresh panelists. Who have we got next month? I think we've got James and Nick next month, so we'll give Marcus a break, give him time to revel in his victory, and we'll be back.
The Photography Online Podcast, in partnership with King Joy Tripods.
Yeah, all the Photography Online podcasts in 2025 have been in partnership with King Joy Tripods. Now, Chris, I know a podcast is not the optimum platform to be showing this, obviously, and you're sitting down as well, but you're a pretty tall guy, which people will know from, I think, watching some of the features that we've done, especially because you were next to Harry, although that's not maybe the best way to tell. But do you find, Chris, when it comes to tripods, that you are sometimes limited when you're looking at regular models? Do you have to do anything a bit different?
Yeah, I mean, so for reference, I am 195 centimetres tall, so I'm about 6 foot 5.
I'm still in feet and inches, Chris.
6 foot 5, I am. I'm 6 foot 5.
Do you know, I didn't realise.
And I do have problems finding kind of decent sized tripods, but one of the most important things in composition is camera position, and having that ability to get your camera higher or lower is very, very important. And there's many shots that I've taken where I've had to get my camera above my head height. So I do have a very, very tall tripod. I use a 3-section tripod that will go without the central column to 2 meters 10. So, another half a foot above my head height without the center column. And with the center column up, I cannot reach my camera, or I certainly can't operate it comfortably. So it's one of those ones you'd need to use a tripod, a stepladder with. But yeah, I use a very tall tripod.
You too carry a stepladder, okay? This is a whole... I haven't seen many we've done gear sections for a long time, new items of gear. I've never yet seen a tripod's companion, like a stepladder. Maybe someone should think about, doing something with that.
It's not something I carry on every trip.
Now, Ruth, I've actually had a tripod custom made by King Joy. And because it was custom made for me, I had to give it a name. So it's not unofficial a name. They don't call it this name, but I call it the Goliath because that describes it quite well. But it goes up to 2.4 meters as standard. But I was recently out on the Outer Hebrides, and I found a couple of locations where I actually needed to put the camera higher than that. So one was of an old abandoned house, and I wanted to get the camera high enough so that I could see the horizon over the top of the roof. And the Goliath wasn't quite tall enough. It just didn't give that separation. So I had a brainwave, and I actually got the lower section legs off of another tripod and put them on the bottom of the Goliath to turn it from a 4-section tripod into a 5-section tripod. And now it goes up to 3 meters. I mean, imagine that.
Did you have a ladder?
Well, I haven't actually taken the shot yet. So I discovered this on a recce trip, okay? So I need to go back and take the shot. But I would need a ladder in that situation.
Or crampons or something, yeah.
Crampons?
Yeah. So people climbing telegraph poles. Yeah, that'll be the next thing in tripods. Just put these little ledges on it.
Yeah, but King Joy do make a off-the-shelf tool tripod called the C86 XT, which XT stands for extra tall, which goes up to 2 meters, which is more than sufficient for most people. But even if you're not that tall, Chris, I'm sure you can appreciate the situation of when you're standing on a hillside or a slope. At least one of the legs has to be on the lowest part of the slope,
yeah.
And so if you're standing on a kind of 30-degree incline, which would be fairly steep, then even a 2-meter tripod would potentially be either at most people's eye level or slightly below. So even if you're like Harry and only like 1 foot tall, then having a tall tripod can still be beneficial because it can still come into lots of its uses when you're not working on level ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I think normally I would only extend 2 sections, and the most of the time, if I'm extending a 3rd section, it's because I'm on a slope. And the ground drops away from me, and that's what that's when it comes in really helpful. Very rarely will I have all 3 leg sections have it above head height, but it's good to have that option. I mean, the vast majority of sort of Bogo standard tripods are only going to be around about somewhere between 120 and 150 centimeters high. So you're going to struggle to get, as Marcus was explaining, struggle to get separation. Really, in landscape photography in particular, the relationship between your foreground and background is very, very important, and having that ability to adjust the height of your tripod is almost essential.
So if anybody wants an off-the-shelf, very tall tripod, then they can go to the Photography online shop and look for the C86 XT. And if that's not tall enough, then you can get in touch with us and we can custom make, or get Kingjoy to custom make, a Goliath for you, which as standard will go to 2.4 meters. But if you're really want to push the boat out, then it will go to 3 meters once we've made some modifications to it.
All right, well, if you're interested in those two or anything else available in Kingjoy's professional lineup, as Marcus said, do check out the Photography Online shop, which you can get to on our mc2photography.com website if you're here in the UK, or go to kingjoy.com for international sales or to find out your nearest dealer. All right, well, let's move on.
Listeners from an unlikely location.
Yes, we do like to say hello to our listeners from unexpected parts of the world, as well as, of course, expected parts. We have got one person last month listening in Albania, and I'm going to try and say this. Mirëseardje to you. I remember Googling, I think that's welcome, and I remember Googling hello thinking it might be easier, and it's not any easier. So Mirëseardje if you're listening in Albania. We also have one person listening in Greenland. Tikkeluarit, I believe, is how we welcome you. So honestly, they're getting a little bit harder, and no easier translating to hello or anything like that. But Albania and Greenland, great to have you. This is exciting. We every month kind of do a bit of a blow by blow on the American states. It doesn't take too long because we've got most states are covered, but nobody in the last few months listening from Montana. However, last month, yes, we had a Montana listener, woohoo, and also Hawaii. Now, it was interesting because I was in the middle of compiling some of these stats, and I had a quick look and I thought, we're still missing Hawaii. And then I got an email in from someone, and he said, I listen to the Photography Online podcast. I'm based in Honolulu. I've been subscribed to the YouTube channel since the beginning. I shoot Sony for everything, from my plastic models, travel, food, street, and astro. I can actually shoot the Milky Way from the top of Mauna Kea. Keep up the good work. I hope to visit Scotland someday. And that's Val Bueno, who signed off with aloha. So I no longer entirely trust the stats that we have, because when I checked back this morning, it still showed nobody in Hawaii.
Yeah, he might be listening with a VPN.
He might be. No particular reason to, seeing as it's easily accessible. But anyway, it's so good to have you, Hawaii, which does mean the only holdout in the USA is South Dakota. Now, I guess because we're not trusting it entirely, that may not be true. So if you are listening from South Dakota, do let us know. But right now, we've just got a big gap. That's the only state in the whole US.
Do you know anyone in South Dakota, Chris?
I don't know anyone in South Dakota, but isn't it a beautiful state?
I have been, but I can't. It wasn't particularly memorable.
So probably not.
I can't. Yeah, I mean, I would have just driven through it. I've actually been to. I've lost count. Actually, I've probably been to. Definitely over 40 states, but lots of those have just been driving through, or cutting through a corner, or whatever. So I think that's probably more than the average American, though.
Right, well, South Dakotans, I don't know what you're called. If you're listening there, do get in touch, let us know. Marcus, though, has been busy. He's been crunching numbers as he does. Right, I'm going to hand over to you for this, Marcus.
Well, last month, Ruth, you mentioned India. We had quite a few listeners in India, yes, and I asked you how many, and you said you weren't sure. So I've looked it up because I wanted to find out the population density that are listening to Photography Online, and it turns out that we had 54 listeners from India last month, and it's got a population of 1.4 billion. So if you divide 1.4 billion by 54,
Here we go.
it means that 1 in 26 million Indians listen to the Photography Online podcast. Okay, so that's not many, but then it got me thinking. Okay, so I wonder what the population density of other, listenership in other countries are. In the US, it's 1 in 470,000.
That's not bad.
Far more popular in the US than in India. Canada is 1 in 93,000. So, I mean, that's getting to the point where it's almost impossible to walk down the street without somebody recognising it. Australia is even better, 1 in 86,000 people there listen to the Photography Online podcast. Greenland, as you just mentioned, we had 1 listener. The population of Greenland is 57,000. So 1 in 57,000 people in Greenland listen to us, albeit that was probably someone just on holiday. In Ireland, it's 1 in 53,000. So, I mean, that's a stadium full of people. So if you see a stadium full of people at a concert, then there's normally 50, 60,000. So that's the one of those people out of the population of Ireland is listening to Photography Online podcast. The UK is obviously our most, populous, or where we're most popular. 1 in 30,000 people in the UK listen to the Photography Online podcast. But there is somewhere that beats the UK in terms of population density, and that is the Seychelles. Because we had 7 listeners in the Seychelles, and if you look up the population, it's 121,000. So that makes it 1 in 17,000 people in the Seychelles are listening to Photography Online.
Lying on the beach, listening to Marcus plough his way through another quiz and just hoping and praying that the outcome is different this month.
I do have one more very important figure, Ruth.
Okay.
And that is, I thought, I wonder what the world density is. So if you get the world population, which is 1.3 billion, and divide it by the amount of listeners that we have everywhere in the world. Sorry, not 1.3 billion. What am I talking about? 8.4
I like the way Chris was looking around like, I don't think that's right.
You've missed out all of China.
Yes, no, 8.3 billion, sorry. Or 8.4 if you look up the most recent stats. Clearly we're expanding faster than stats can keep up with. But anyway, divide 8.4 billion by the total amount of listeners that we get, and you get 1 in 1.3 million.
That's not bad.
Ruth, I've been telling you for years now that you're 1 in a million. Okay, and this proves that you're actually
wrong.
even better than that. No, you're even better than that. You're a 1 in 1.3 million, and
that's worse. But I'll take your skewed compliment.
No, it's better.
It is better.
Because
1.3. Okay, okay. Not listeners.
It means that it means that you're extra special. You're more special than 1 in a million. Yeah. You're 1 in 1.3 million.
Mm.
This new Marcus, it's completely, it's throwing me. It's
very
confusing where I'm going to go. Very disconcerting. But keep working on it, keep refining it, and
so next time we're standing under a starry sky and the moonlight is just catching your face, I'm going to turn to you, Ruth, and I'm going to say, Ruth, you're 1 in 1.3 million.
Right. Well, okay. Hopefully your partner will be somewhere nearby. Wherever you guys are listening from, very glad to have you with us. Do get in touch. Tell us about yourself. Always interested. Podcast, as I said, at mc2photography.com, or leave a comment on whatever platform you're listening on. And thank you for your comments on last month's podcast. Peter got in touch. He was emailing. He said, I really love your content. And I've got to put a disclaimer, Peter is not a native English speaker. I really love your content. It's every time splendid entertainment and is full of useful information to the real basic needs of photography without losing view on current and technological processes. And when I'm bored or can't sleep, I look at older shows or learn the podcast by heart. So I kind of...
We could use that as a slogan, Ruth.
We could.
Be a long one, but I mean, it does what it says on the tin.
So last month, all he'd be saying over and over is, I'm just a loser. I'm just a born loser. Everyone was right. I'm just a loser. That was Marcus's...
No more. That's all in the past,
That's
Ruth.
all. He's a new man. I've got to tell you. I've never seen so many teeth on a podcast. I just discovered, actually, and I should apologise to anyone that's been leaving comments on Spotify. I didn't actually twig that our system wasn't taking them in. So I went and had a look on Spotify last month and found a few from back in the day. So thank you to anyone who's been leaving podcast comments on there. I am checking them now. Sharon got in touch a few months ago saying, love your work, guys. Look forward to new episodes each month. She had a bit of advice for you, Marcus, and this was 5 months ago, bear in mind. So only when you were like 2 podcasts down as a loser.
Yeah.
She said, I reckon Marcus could improve his hit rate on the pop quiz simply by applying some basic maths. Well, Sharon, he does have a technique now. It's kind of humility, but it's working for him so far. We'll see how it goes next month, and maybe he does like a bit of maths, so we can always fine tune that. So thank you for that, Sharon. Regarding the Photography Online show last month, Tim got in touch, says after watching Marcus testing the teleconverter, I'm glad I didn't buy one, so thank you for that. We did have quite a lot of comments about the teleconverter feature on our last episode, so thank you for all these. Michael also got in touch saying this was the best and most scientific video on teleconverters I've ever seen. Thank you for conducting and organising this comparison. So thank you for these. It's nice having warm-up comments to get Marcus ready for the inevitable slagging off, because, you know, it does take a lot.
I just think we need a balance in life.
We need a balance, and it does take a lot of work to put these features together. So it's, you know, when you just get the negative ones, it can be a little bit disheartening. But anyway, just warming you up for this one, Marcus, from Blistering Books. He said, firstly, I would say it's daft using a teleconverter on a 70-200mm lens, as you can get a good 150 to 600 for not a lot more. Secondly, you're pixel peeping. Most people will look at images on a screen, so nobody will notice it. Now, to be fair to him, because you kind of replied in a slightly blistering response, I did notice.
In a Blistering Books way.
A Blistering Books way. I don't think he was entirely trying to be insulting, but you kind of took it that way. But thank you for all the feedback we get. Ruscombe got in touch. I really enjoy seeing the traditional print from a digital negative. That was the feature we did. Me printing out a negative on the printer and then doing it in Marcus's darkroom. I'd love to give that a try one day. So yeah, had a few people enjoying that, getting inspired, I think, again, to try that yourself at home. So we do always appreciate your feedback. Do keep it coming. Comment or email podcast@mc2photography.com. Big breath. Lots of comments there. Any feedback on those comments, Marcus? No? Shall we just move on?
Yeah, just move on, because otherwise I'll get on my soapbox.
Yeah, so we don't want to do that. Anyway, right, okay, so last month we introduced a feature which we weren't entirely sure we were going to carry on with, but we're going to do it this month again, called In My View, which in certain scenarios is just an excuse for, as Marcus said, to get on his soapbox, so maybe he's just holding it in for this, or to have a wee bit of a rant, rabbit warren, whatever. We had a question last month, and it seemed to go down quite well, so we thought we'd ask another one this month. Now, we had the idea, because when I introduced this feature last month, I completely messed it up, and I'm going to play this back. Here we go. We don't have a fancy jingle for this, because this is like a wee thing we thought we'd add in specially for this month, the wee mini feature. What is the most overrated photography?
That could be the jingle. We just need to put a little bit of music underneath that, and we've got it.
So there we go. Marcus had the idea this could be the jingle, failing to realise, of course, that I was introducing the question and not exactly the title of the feature. But he's gone ahead and put some music under it. So although it doesn't quite work, here is the opener for this new feature. What is the most overrated photography? Right, thank you for that. Anyway, we'll maybe do a better one for next time if we do it again. But we put a question up on our socials a few days ago, gave you a chance to have a wee look at that, put our feedback, and the question was, is it better to be an award-winning photographer? Now, obviously, that's a fairly open question. We had a few people saying better than what, but we deliberately had it like that because, well, for obvious reasons, lots of people just thinking award-winning in anything is better than not being award-winning. So we had a few comments on here, and I've just chosen a few because there was quite a lot. From Benzel. Benzel says, I think it depends on what field of photography it is. For wedding photography, clients might take more notice if you're recognised with awards. For other types, like portrait in the fashion industry, it might get you some work with big names if you've been recognised by a big name magazine. Otherwise, as long as you love what you do, then anyone can do it. If they don't like, even if they don't, what does it say? As long as you love what you do, then everyone else can do one. Oh, they can do one. He's just saying you can get lost if you don't like it. Thank you, Benzel. Mark saying the nature of the award or awards matters. And this is an interesting comment. I really like this one. If it relates to photography business and satisfying clients, then it matters if I want to employ that photographer. If, for example, a photographer had awards as a tour operator, as well as for their travel or wildlife or nature photography, that would be even better. If the awards are only for their photography, I'd have second thoughts and wonder what their tour operations are like. And then we had a few variations on the following. This is from Stephen. He said, I'm an award-winning photographer. I have my 10 metres backstroke certificate framed on the wall. Chimera Photographic also said, back in 2020, I won the Emergency Services Driver Challenge on Top Gear. Therefore, I too am an award-winning photographer. And Michelle, I thought I would end with Michelle's comment. She said, if that's the way it's phrased, award-winning, in isolation, it rarely sits comfortably with me. Which award? Local, national, international, for what genre? And I think that's kind of getting to the nitty-gritty of really what the question's about. People will put award-winning with very often no context and no more detail, because to them it looks good, maybe it's an ego boost. But what do we reckon, guys, to this question? Because who came up with this? Was it yourself, Marcus? I'm sure it was.
Well, I was actually...
And why?
I was actually having a conversation with Chris about it, and we just thought we'd bring the conversation to the podcast because it was quite interesting. But
and are either of you award-winning? Where did this question come from?
Full disclosure, I am not an award-winning photographer.
But Chris, I would describe you as a potentially award-winning photographer.
Thank you. That's very kind. Which I think this is very disconcerting, isn't it? It's being nice to me.
I'm not used to it at all. It's very much throwing me.
No, in my former career, I worked in radio production, and it makes me chuckle now because I worked with a presenter who on his CV described himself as a potentially award-winning radio presenter. I just thought that was fantastic.
That's ace, actually. You can definitely use that for your CVs.
But no, I think from my point of view, awards are going to be more common with photographers who enter them. Whereas if you don't enter an award or enter for an award, you're not going to win one, are you? So it's not like being recognised by, in the Queen or King's Honours now. It's not like getting an OBE or something where you're just recognised for, outstanding talents behind the camera, being a true lens person. You might be one of those photographers who might not actually be that great a photographer, but you've got a lot of free time on your hands, so you just enter.
You're talking about me?
No, no.
You're talking to me? I might not be that great a photographer, thanks.
You're talking to me.
He's back, everybody. Welcome back, Marcus.
But if you've got lots of free time on your hands, then you're going to probably enter lots of photo competitions, and the more photo competitions, it's a lottery, isn't it? The more photo competitions you enter, the more likely you're going to win. So sooner or later, you're going to win the Northampton Regional Newspaper Astrophotographer of the Week award or something, and then you can say I'm an award-winning photographer. And to me, it doesn't mean anything when I see that next to somebody's name. Because, like Michelle said, in isolation, it could be anything. But from my personal point of view, and this is what I was explaining to Chris. Before I was, for want of a better word, professional photographer, i.e. meaning that I make a living out of photography, I ended up winning what was back then quite a big competition in a national magazine. And I won their Photographer of the Year in 2003, so many, many moons ago. But what that did is it gave me the confidence that I could kind of hang up my headphones, because I was a music and radio producer before that, and dive in at the deep end to do photography. Because if I hadn't won that, then I don't think I would have had the confidence to do it. But beating 20,000 other photographers, many of whom were professionals, I thought, well, if I can win this, then I'm guessing that I can compete fairly competitively with what's already out there. And so to me, it made a big difference. But I don't go round branding that I'm an award-winning photographer, although I'm sure it's written somewhere, and someone wants to Google it, it will be written on some old website somewhere that I am an award-winning photographer. But I don't brandish that around as though it's some kind of authentication as to I know what I'm doing. But it can be important, I think, for the person, but I don't think it's important to market yourself with. What do you reckon, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, so it's, a similar story to you. This isn't me. One of my favourite photographers here in Cumbria is a lady called Amy Bateman. And I believe, I should have looked this up, but I believe she won a competition, something like British Lifestyle Photographer of the Year or something like that. And that, I believe, directly led to her getting the book deal that she did when she published her 40 Farmers book, which has been hugely successful and it's brilliant. So I think that, certainly if you do win competitions, if you enter, it does open doors for you. But that being said, personally, my personal opinion, and I'm about to alienate all club photographers in the country, I should think, but I've always felt that I just don't get the point of a competitive element to something that is entirely subjective. And for me, I've never entered. I entered landscape photography of the year once, and it was such an awful experience. I never did it again.
Yeah, basically, it's just a good way of parting with £50.
Yeah, absolutely. There is that, and of course, everyone's going to say, well, the only reason you don't enter competitions is because you're never going to win, and there's something to be said for that. But I just do not get the competitive element of art. It's not something that's ever sat with me well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't entered a competition for many, many, many years. Like you, I have entered Landscape Photographer of the Year a long time ago. And then it occurred to me one day that if I were to come second or third or be highly commended or whatever those, lower ranks are, it's actually an embarrassment because it's basically highlighting the fact that there's loads of other photographers out there that are better than you. Whereas if you don't enter, you can't possibly be embarrassed. So just don't enter.
That's right. So that's the route I'm taking. No more embarrassment.
If you're not number one, that's it. You have to be number one. That's your route, Marcus.
Seriously, put yourself in the shoes of somebody who, goes out and runs workshops and runs photo adventures around the world. If you enter a competition and come third, then why are people paying you to go and teach them how to do photography? They should be employing the guy who came second or first.
I've seen many comments from our listeners who've, they've entered competitions, they've been commended or whatever. And it's just, like you said yourself, although you got the ego boost for coming first, some more humble people, and will work towards this, get the boost from actually placing at all and having that recognition. And like you say, it gives them a stepping stone of confidence.
Yes, but they're not probably making a living from teaching photography to other people.
Well, that's a whole different side of things.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So that's why I said put yourself in my shoes. So if I wasn't making a living from teaching other people how to improve their photography, then it wouldn't be an issue coming second or third. But, it is because you're basically saying, hey, highlighting the fact that, hey, look, someone's better than me. Which is absolute nonsense because, as Chris said, it's all subjective anyway. It's a lottery when you enter a competition. I often look at the results of competitions and think, well, why on earth did that win? Because some of these commended photos, which are way down the ranks, are better than that, in my opinion. But that's it. In my opinion,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think the big problem with competitions, I think that they, to a certain extent, are doing more harm than good. And they're certainly narrow in landscape photography. Both Marcus and I, landscape photographers, they're very much narrowing what we see as a good landscape photograph. And that's not what art is about. Art is about broadening our horizons and what have you. And again, many club photographers will recognise this when I say this, that, often the images that you're submitting into competitions are ones that meet a certain number of criteria that judges look for. And that doesn't necessarily mean that your best work. And I also feel, while I'm on my soapbox, that when you're judging a photographer on a single image, that kind of is missing the point a little bit. So Landscape Photographer of the Year, I feel, should be renamed Landscape Photograph of the Year. And the stuff that's based on portfolios and wider selections, things like distinctions and that thing from the Royal Photographic Society, for example, for me, carry a bit more weight.
Okay, excellent. Well, maybe we'll take this feature back in next month's podcast. We will see if we've got a sufficiently divisive topic or question to ask, but do keep an eye on our socials. And I can't get through this feature without messing up my words. Anyway, let's leave it behind and move on to looking at some stuff.
It may be new. It may even be exciting. But does the world really need it?
Do you know what I just thought, Marcus? This is the October podcast. Come next month, we're going to have to be starting adding some Christmas type things into our gear section. But anyway, that's not this month yet, hopefully. Never know. Some of these perhaps could be stocking fillers, but certainly not the next couple of items we've got. Marcus, what's the first one? Or two, I should say.
Yeah, we've got a couple of new lenses from Sigma. I mean, they seem to be bashing them out like there's no tomorrow at the moment, because I think last month we had a couple of lenses as well. But, they're two fantastic lenses. The first one is a 135mm f1.4 DG Art lens. So it's the world's first autofocus 135mm f1.4 lens. So, I mean, this is going to be the king of bokeh, because that focal length with that aperture is going to give you an extremely narrow depth of field and render anything that's not on your plane of focus well and truly, soft. So I guess it's kind of, marketed for portraits because it's not long enough to be a wildlife or sports lens. The fact that you can get that shallow depth of field is leaning towards it being, reasonably good for portraits. Although, personally, I think it's slightly too long. The focal length slightly too long for portraits.
The 85.
I think 85 is the kind of the sweet spot, because what that does is it puts the camera at a natural distance from somebody. So when you're standing talking to somebody, it gives you that natural perspective. Whereas 135, it will put you too far away, and so it's almost like you're having to shout to the person. It just puts too much distance between you and the subject. I haven't used this lens because it's brand new. But I have used a similar lens by Sigma, which is the 105mm f1.4, so slightly shorter but same aperture, and that was fantastic. I mean, that was such a beautiful lens to use. But I got what I consider to be one of my best shots that I've ever taken on that lens. I only had it for a couple of weeks, and I took this portrait of a Highland cow, and it's beautifully backlit with the mountains perfectly kind of framing the big horns coming out of it and everything. I've actually got it framed on my wall. That's how much I like it. But that was taken with that Sigma 105mm lens. So this is very similar. It's just a little bit longer, and I'm not sure what advantage that longer focal length is going to give you. It's only available for the L mount and Sony E mount at the moment. But what is interesting, we were talking about teleconverters on the last YouTube show, Ruth. If you put a 1.4 teleconverter on this lens, you'd basically end up with a 200mm f2 lens, which, it is, I mean, that was one of the lenses we were talking about on last month's show, and that was about £3,000. This lens here is coming in at £1,650, thereabouts. So by the time you've added a teleconverter than that, you're probably looking at about 2,000. And then you've got two lenses. You've got a 135mm f1.4, and you've also got a 200 f2 lens. So it's a great money saving exercise to do that. But if you put a ×2 teleconverter on, you turn it into a 270mm f2.8, which is kind of getting into the kind of sports and wildlife domain. So this lens could be useful with a couple of teleconverters to give you lots of options and save you quite a bit of money on buying longer lenses. It's not light. It's 1.4 kilos, which is 50 ounces if you're listening in North America. But, fast glass is never going to be light. So it comes with a price. Now, the other lens that they've released as well is, you'll like this, Ruth, because you got something very similar. It's the Sigma 35mm f1.2. Which is a full frame lens. Yep. Now you've got the 1.4 Sigma lens, and you really like that, don't you?
Love it. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about the 35mm focal length, Chris? Do you think it's if you could only have one focal length on your camera, and that was it, for the rest of your life you had to take everything at one focal length, mine would be 35mm of choice, because it's wide enough to do landscapes and everything, but it's not so wide that you can't do portraits and other things. But what would yours be?
I think 35mm is a great choice as a pure landscaper, a one trick pony. I would probably want something a bit wider, probably a 24mm. But for you, with your travel and the portrait stuff that you have done in the past, 35 is bang on. I know street photographers love it, don't they? 35mm.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, anything wider than 35, and I think everything just becomes a bit too small in the frame.
Yep.
So unless you're going to be that confident to just go up and stick the camera right in amongst the action, which a lot of people aren't comfortable doing. But so the only difference really between this one and your one, Ruth, apart from the fact that it's obviously in a different mount because yours is in a Canon EF mount, but is the same focal length, but this one is a third of a stop faster or brighter. Now, 1.2 instead of 1.4, how much difference does that make? I'm not sure it makes a huge amount of difference to, how out of focus the background is or anything. But obviously in low light situation, it's going to give you a little bit of a faster exposure time to handhold it slightly longer. But a third of a stop, it's really not that bigger deal, but it's it's a beautiful lens, and if if you didn't already have your 1.4 and you were looking for a 35, then I'd be saying have a look at this. But it's not cheap. It's £1,100, but that's what you have to pay for super fast glass. But I certainly wouldn't suggest that it's worth exchanging your current lens for, because I don't really see that you're going to notice the difference in that third of a stop.
Yeah, you very rarely shoot all the way up anyway at 1.4, so 1.2 probably wouldn't do a huge amount. Not for me personally, maybe for some other people. Chris, is it something that you would have? Have you got a 35 in your own arsenal?
No. I mean,
that was finite.
As a landscape photographer, I mean, I typically shoot with a wide-angle lens. The majority of photographs I take, my style has developed so that I'm getting much closer to my subject.
He has a style, Marcus.
I do have a style.
Yeah.
So I tend to get much closer to my subject than a lot of other photographers. So I tend to be shooting at much wider focal lengths. 35mm would be about the longest that I would traditionally regularly shoot at.
Okay. Well, 2 new releases, like Marcus said. There's been a few coming out recently, but all amazing, judging by the reviews. That's the 135 and the 35. Check those out if they're of interest to you. Chris, Fujifilm got another new camera out. These guys also seem to be releasing them quite frequently. What's this new one? Yet
another new camera from Fujifilm. Yes, it's the latest in their XE series, the XE5. The stats are predictably predictable. It's got a 40 megapixel APS-C sensor, so that's up from 26 megapixels on the E4. It's got 7 stops of inbuilt in-body image stabilization. The video is up from 4K to 6K, but you will never use it for video because this is a rangefinder camera, which is about the only interesting thing about it as far as I can figure out. The great thing about the rangefinder, if you're a kind of street or travel photographer, they tend to be much more compact than something like a mirrorless or a DSLR. But if you're not a street or travel photographer, I doubt this will interest you. It's predictably with Fujifilm, it's more expensive than the predecessor. It's about £1,500 retail.
It does look like a nice camera, though. It's the kind of thing that I would imagine that you would go for, Ruth. It looks
how did I know you were going to say that?
Well, it looks very Leica-esque.
You're right. It's a pretty camera, and that's why I think they're so popular. They've decided that people actually enjoy this aesthetic, and they're just building on that. And it's got a pancake lens on the front. Is it got a lens with it, or is it a fixed lens?
£1,500 body only.
Okay,
I believe
body only. And the interesting thing about this, I was seeing on the top, they've got the Fujifilm have obviously got a lot of presets, and they've actually built them into the camera itself, which I've never seen before. You can kind of scroll a little button, and then along the top they've got a little clear circle, and underneath, almost like you're spinning the ISO.
They've got sort of film simulations.
Presets.
That's
what I meant. Film simulations.
Film simulations on all their cameras, but I believe this is one of the best implementations of the dial. So you actually have the film simulation on the dial. Personally, I used to shoot Canon. I moved over to Fuji not too long ago for reasons I won't go into, and I don't use the film simulations. I think they're stupid.
Well, Chris, I've got a number of cameras on the shelves behind me, and they don't need film simulations because they actually use film. So if I want to have a Fuji Velvia look, I put Fuji Velvia into the camera.
Yes.
There's no simulation required. I get the real deal.
Yes, and which is the ideal situation. I don't get the point of film simulations, for full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of Fuji.
Okay, so in terms of the question that we ask after some of the gear items, does the world need this, in your opinion, Chris?
Well, as a landscape photographer, no, they don't. But if you're a street photographer, this is probably... Or a travel photographer.
The thing is that there's so many other cameras out there, including ones from Fuji, that will probably do exactly the same job.
Yep.
So every time someone comes out with a new camera now, I'm kind of look at it. I mean, last month we were looking at the new Hasselblad X2D2, and you're kind of looking at it just going, what's different about it? And there's a couple of minor tweaks and upgrades, but it's nothing groundbreaking. It's like everyone's reached the limit of what they can do. And so there's just these like little minor tweaks going on here and there, but they're nothing to get excited about.
No.
They must have be told you, right, you need to release 4 or 5 different camera bodies every year, and they just have to work towards it rather than waiting until they've got something groundbreaking, like you say.
Well, I mean, everybody has to shift a certain amount of cameras, and if you don't continuously update what's on offer, then you're going to presumably sell less cameras. So, but I just think that people shouldn't fall for the marketing hype so much, because your current camera is probably perfectly adequate, and a new replacement isn't going to offer anything that beneficial anyway.
All right, well, that's the Fujifilm X-E5. Again, links to the gear we're talking about will be in the show notes. Marcus, next item we've got, what's this?
So this is a DJI Osmo Nano, which is an ultra-compact action camera which can be clipped to clothing to give a point-of-view video perspective, or attached to, a bike or, motorbike helmet.
It's like a GoPro.
But pretty much. But it's only weighs 58 grams. I'm not sure what that is in ounces, but before the podcast, I was going to go and weigh an egg to see what that. Because I think it's always nice to give it context.
That's a quote we can use. Before the podcast, I was going to go and weigh an egg.
Yeah, I've never said that sentence
Listen
before.
into which feature do you think this quote refers to? Yeah.
Do you think that sentence has ever been said by anybody before?
I do not.
So therefore, I'm officially a 1 in 8.4 billion.
There you go. 8.14, you mean?
Whatever. It weighs only 58 grams. That's lighter than a phone, put it that way. It shoots 4K video up to 120 frames a second, so it's good for slow motion stuff. If you want to go faster than that, you can shoot in HD at 240 frames per second to get super slow motion. The battery life is reported to be very good at 2.5 hours of continuous recording, which would be good, because I remember I haven't used GoPros for years, but when I used to use GoPros, that was the one thing that was always tripping me up, is the battery would run out.
Yeah, we'd be filming on the cars, sticking them out the windows, and they'd die halfway,
Yeah, and you didn't realise it had died until you pulled over and went to turn it off, and it was already off, and you thought, okay, when did that switch off? Was it before I got that epic view round the corner, or after? So it's got built-in storage as well, which I think is good. It's got you can get it with 64 or 128 gigabytes. Plus, it also has a micro SD card as well. So no chance of running out of memory on this thing. It's got a touchscreen for controls, and the price is $399. So in pounds, that would be about 320, 310, something like that. So I mean, it's just another, an upgraded action camera, I guess. It does look pretty smart. But, is it going to, like we just said, is it going to offer anything groundbreaking over all the other action cameras that currently exist on the market?
There are a billion of them.
Probably not. So, maybe slightly longer battery life. I mean, the weight is kind of irrelevant, because there's no action camera I know of that's actually heavy. You go, I leave that at home today because I don't want to have to carry it. So the weight's irrelevant. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have one already, then this would be a great addition to your kit bag if you want to record sort of point of view video and what have you as you go around. I'm not sure how many people need to do that, but I was watching a documentary last night on BBC about Thailand, and the amount of British people who now live in Thailand because they've worked out that they can make a living out there being an influencer. So they have TikTok accounts and Instagram accounts, and they basically just record their daily life. And they're basically saying, I live here in Koh Samui, Bangkok, wherever it is. And they get 1 million views. And you just think, what's so interesting about someone living in Thailand? But they all do it, and they're making, according to themselves, they're making £10,000 a month just by making videos every day. I mean,
now imagine, Marcus, when you'd been travelling the world, if TikTok had been around, you could have just stayed in Thailand and not have to come back and make a living.
Oh, that would have been nice, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm not sure it would, to be honest. But Thailand's great, but
nice for us.
I ended up in China for 5 years. That was my adventure.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that's the DJI Oslo Nano. And there's a lot of interesting names going on. The Pixboom Spark, which I can't say without saying Pixboom. But at first glance, you wouldn't have a clue what it was. What is the Pixboom Spark, Chris?
Well, it's a cinema camera. That's essentially what it is. Marcus was talking about slow motion a minute ago. He was talking about cameras that'll do HD Full HD at 240 frames per second. This camera will shoot 4K footage at 1,000 frames per second. The question is, why would you do that when most kind of cinema is shot at 24 frames per second? And the answer is super, super slow motion footage. It's on Kickstarter at the minute. It's about £6,000 on Kickstarter. Launch price retail will be about $9,500. And so it's not a cheap thing. Now, the problem with cameras that are built to do one specific thing, a single job, is they're usually terrible at everything else. So this is going to be a very, very, very niche product. Does the world need one? Probably does. Does it need many of them? Probably not.
Do you have any information, Chris, on what lenses it takes?
I don't know. No, I don't. Have you got it there?
Okay. No, I did. I just wondered, because when you try and think of applications that would use or would need that, degree of slow motion, you're kind of probably thinking of, hummingbird wildlife photography. But once you've eliminated that, I can't think of much else. I mean, a bullet coming from a gun or something like that. I don't really know what else you would want in slow motion that goes. I mean, let's just say you're to keep the math simple. If your playback speed is 25 frames a second, then shooting 1,000 frames a second is going to give you a slow-mo of 40 times.
Yes, bang on, 40 times.
So what do you need to see that's a 40th of the speed?
I mean, I think, like I say, it is incredibly niche. I remember the first time I kind of saw sort of this kind of super, super slow motion. I think it was the Ashes in 2005.
What, cricket?
Yeah, cricket, yeah. And
sounds about right.
They slowed cricket down.
Oh.
All cricket is slow motion, isn't it? Anyway.
Exactly. But, what they were able to do was get kind of close up and show, how the bats were flexing as the ball came in contact with, and the kind of sweat flying on people while they hit the ball. And it was all great, very good, brilliant. But once you've seen it once, you don't really need to see it again.
Yeah. But Ruth, just make a note to never ever get James and Chris on the same podcast.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
It will just turn into a cricket podcast.
It's I can't think of anything worse than watching cricket in slow motion. But saying that, things like the bat flexing, it's that kind of thing where you never in real life would understand that ever even happened.
Yes. And
so it opens up new discoveries in a way. So you were talking about what would you possibly use it for? If you use it for things mundane, you might discover new things as opposed to here's the thing I want to see. It's like, well, actually, here's what we didn't realize was going to happen. So scientifically, I'm sure there'd be a lot of people interested in pointing at various things.
The only thing that I really can think that I would find a use for with that camera is filming Harry getting his wallet out. Because that's very fast. When it happens, it's very fast, and it only happens very seldom. So you want to capture it and study it properly to make sure it did actually happen.
Yes. Anyway, does the world need it? Like Chris said, yeah, probably. It's an interesting one, but like you said, also very niche. And what do you say, 10 grand or so it's going to be?
$9,500 retail it's going to be.
That's coming out at the end of the month. So if it's of interest to you, again, links in the usual place. Kickstarter, you mentioned, is where we saw this one. Kickstarter is actually a fertile field of interesting photography stuff, which generally a lot of it you do not need. Not saying this next one is one of those, but describe.
I think we can definitely say it is.
Definitely is. Without telegraphing what's coming next.
Preempting. What is it, Marcus?
Okay, so this is a product made by a company called Loft. And it's called the Station 150. And basically what it is, it's a rolling gear bag that turns into a work table. Now, I don't know, have you seen the promotional video for this, Chris?
Yes.
I mean, it's hilarious.
Yes.
So there's this promotional video where a guy gets out of his car, he starts dropping all his gear in the mud, and suggesting that this is a common problem that we all face. I don't remember ever dropping anything in the mud. Then it shows.
In the ocean.
Then it that was an otter, Ruth, and we're not going to go there. Then it shows the same guy with the Station 150, and all his problems are immediately solved because he unfolds this bag, which kind of basically turns into a table. And then he lays out all his equipment just so that he can insert a micro SD card into a GoPro camera before he cycles off. Now, it doesn't show how long it takes to set up this this bench, but judging by watching the video, I would imagine that it's not a few seconds. It's probably quite a long, drawn out process, and then you've got to pack it all away again. By the way, if it's set up in the mud, then the bottom of the feet are going to be muddy and everything. So maybe you're going to have to wipe them and what have you. So it's worth watching the video just because for the comedy value, really. Now, the weight of this bag is something that you have to delve quite deep into the specifications to find out, because they're not promoting this as one of the selling points, and that is because it's 7.5 kilos. That's without any gear in it. So for anyone listening in North America, that's 16.5 pounds. So that's your, if you want to take this on a plane, that's it. You can't put anything in it. That you've already reached your limit. It's not a small thing either. It's a huge thing. So it's like a duffel bag which has got wheels on it, so you can roll it around. But I can't really see the point of this. I mean, it's $800. Is the price. But if you get in now and pre-order it on Kickstarter, you can get it for the bargain of $650. But I really don't see the use of this. This is just ridiculous. It really is.
The problem once again, is if you take something that has a function, a camera bag, and you try and turn it into something else, it inevitably will be rubbish at both things. So this will not just be a terrible bag; it'll be a terrible table as well, and therefore completely pointless.
Yeah. Now, I've seen it in lots of on the website. I've seen it being used in lots of different ways, not just for photography. But there's even a shot of a DJ with a couple of record decks and a mixer set up like he's doing a gig on a beach or something.
Yeah.
No.
What's wrong with a table? What's wrong with a bloody fold-away table?
Well, exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't need a table that transforms into a bag.
No.
Especially when you have to spend $800 on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a big no for that one, Ruth.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Does not need that.
Yeah, okay, a resounding no for the Station 150 gear bag / workstation. If you are interested to watch the video, like Mark said, even for the comedy value, Kickstarter's got it and links in the usual place. So have a look at those. Also, the news stories that we were talking about at the beginning of the show, we've got links to all of those. We're about there, I think, for the podcast this month. Just letting you know what you can watch on Photography Online on YouTube and our current show, which is going to be out later on today if you're listening to this very early in the morning. First Sunday of the month in October, the Great British Icons Photo Challenge. It is the final feature for our final show of the year. So the guys have got 3 icons, I think, to get into their final 2 spots on the watch face. It's going to be a good one. It's featuring, not saying the actual people, it's got to feature the Beatles as an icon, Monty Python as an icon, and Big Ben. So that's going to be a fun one, I think. So that's going to be good. Looking at affordable entry-level cameras, we haven't done a feature like this for a little while, so that's going to be really interesting as well. If you or someone you know is looking for a way into professional lensmanship, lens peopleship, or maybe Christmas stuff, don't want to mention that really, but potentially, we checked out some cameras on there, so that's cool. We also chatted to Andy Saunders. Now, if you've listened to the podcast or watched the show, I should say, for a while, I think it was a couple of years back, was it, Marcus? We had Andy.
Well, he reckons it was 3 years ago, but I think it's probably 2 and a bit. Okay. 2 and a bit to 3 years ago, we had Andy Saunders on. This is the man who remastered the original NASA Apollo images and released a fantastic book to great acclaim. And we had a really, really interesting interview on with him a while back. He has just released some of the original space mission photographs from the Gemini and what's the other one, Marcus? Mercury missions, which preceded the Apollo missions in the 60s. So he's got a brand new book out. It's fantastic, and we speak to him again on the show. So those things all coming up on this month's Photography Online on YouTube, as I said, the final one for the year. The podcast, though, is of course continuing. We're going to carry on making that happen all the way through. So looking forward to that. But until then, Chris, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Ruth.
Forge said with sincerity.
Yes.
And Marcus as well, who is still grinning from ear to ear, which is quite remarkable.
Only because we're at the end and I can go on and do my painting now.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, nothing to do with this quiz win. Anyway, it's probably a blip. We'll see how we get on next time he's in. Until then, though, take good care. And most of all, take good photos.
You've been listening to the Photography Online podcast in partnership with Kingjoy Tripods.
1, 1, 2. Right, that was fine for level. Should we do the recording now?
Yep, I think the level is fine.